Welcome to another edition of the Dental Today podcast. Thank you for stopping by. This is brought to you by labmediatv. My name is Hezekiah Morales, and here we go. Remember to follow us on social media at labmediatv. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to the Dental Today podcast, and we're very excited to have on the show a gentleman who's had over 19 years of dental experience in the dental field, but not only that, we're very interested in hearing his background. He is an artist. He will be going into details on this. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Tom Panei. Tom, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, and it's very interesting how the dental technician profession has so much to do with art, but also there is a deep understanding of the functionality of the mouth and the jaw and the shapes of teeth and so many things that go into this. But you, although you've been in the dental industry for over 19 years now, you didn't. That's not the only thing that you've been doing. You're also an artist. Tell me a little bit about that. How did this all go about?
Yeah, so I've always been an artist, and for a long time I've been taking it seriously. But I was working another job as well, and wasn't real happy there. So a dentist friend of mine, and I had no idea what he was talking about or what I was going to do. And so I thought about it for a while, and a couple months went by, I decided to jump all in and quit my job full time. And I was doing a lot of artwork, and I got into like a lot of murals and different things, with like a lot of commercial stuff for restaurants and businesses. And I started as an assistant, just kind of working my way up. And it seemed to pay off because I really liked it. I wanted to know if I liked it or not, but I really got into it. And then it started more and more into the lab, because that's what he wanted me to do in the first place, work, and then more setups. And then, but with the artistic background, it seemed to come natural with the sculpting of the teeth and the wax and the different aspects of making a denture.
So you were working as a muralist, but also you have here as a sculptor as well. So that's what really got you or transferred over into.
Yeah.
Okay. And what were you doing as a sculptor as well?
Yeah, I was. It was kind of a cool gig. I was repairing church statues.
Wow.
Some of them were 100 years old. You had to fix them. They broke or they needed refurbished. So like I would have to sculpt them, fix them all up, and then paint them to, some were complete restorations and some were just repairs.
Wow.
But it was a good way to get into it. And then that's what I said, like transforming that into, the dental side, it seemed, like I said, it seemed to come pretty easy, like naturally, you have to learn, a lot of the background for dentures and things, but a lot of it is if you got it or you don't kind of thing.
Right.
So I think that helped out. I think that helped out quite a bit.
Now, how did this actually come about? Did you I know you mentioned a few dentists there, but did you go to school for this, or how did this all come about? How did the invitation into the industry start, and how did you know that this was something that you were definitely going to stick with, and now it's been almost 2 decades?
Yeah, it was kind of scary at first because going in cold, you have no idea. Like I said, I didn't know if I was going to like it, I didn't know if I was going to be good at it, or if I wanted to do it. But it just seemed to kind of all fall in place. And you find out in this industry, there's not a lot of schooling. It's a lot of motivation. I mean, you got to be able to find your own ways to educate yourself and take your own courses. I didn't go to any sort of dental school or any dental training. So a lot of it was from, working with the dentist that I had worked with a lot, showing me his techniques on what he had learned.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of old school too, because it was a long time ago that he had any, training in dentures, but he had a great eye and a great way of doing things. And that's how I kind of learned the old school way. And, and then on top of that, I started taking, classes, weekend courses here and there. Dent Supply is, it's about 5 hours away in York, Pennsylvania, so going down there and taking courses, coming back and working, and just a lot of trial and error, a lot of just watching what he did. He did quite a few dentures, and that's why he brought me on board. So a lot of it was, like I said, it was self-taught, just kind of like it was in the artwork, because I was always self-taught in that. It was just something kind of came natural, and I did what I did. So as far as the dentures, it was a little more tough, because you had to figure it out, and there was a lot of mistakes and trial and error, like I said, and it's hard to find training for a working lab technician that's not working in a big dental lab, or going off to a technical school, or like a associate degree or something like that. It's really tough to find the training.
Very interesting.
So that's something. It's something that I've always kind of struggled with, but you just kind of move on, and you buy more and more equipment, and you get more advanced with different parts of the denture process. Now it's like, I'm a one-man show, so it's from after the impressions, doing the wax rims, and then doing the setups, and then doing the processing, and then doing the deliveries, and it's from beginning to end now. So you learn a lot just by doing every part of the denture process.
And so you, from the beginning, you were in that patient doctor technician dynamic, am I right?
Yeah, and that's how it all started, because I was an assistant. So, I was assisting on everything. He had a couple other assistants there, but, I was kind of learning the trade from the ground up. I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to learn from, from just holding a suction to what I'm doing now. So it was a nice background to know what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do, and to learn from somebody that actually was doing it is the best way to, is the best way to learn. I think if, you could read 1,000 books, but someone shows you a couple times, it makes more of an impact by watching somebody than just trying to learn from a book or a video.
And especially, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but especially by being an artist, it's always hands-on. I don't think I've met a lot of musicians, which you are a musician yourself, and I don't think I've met many musicians that had to spend too much time on the paper. They mostly looked at the material and immediately got into the dynamics, the musical dynamics of it. So I'm assuming that's the same way as an artist. And again, who better to answer that question than yourself, who, again, you're an artist when it comes to your hands, which is not limited to the dental or painting or sculptures, but you're also a musician. Am I right?
Yeah. Yep. And yeah, I play guitar, and self-taught there again. A lot of musicians, I think you play drums, don't you?
Well, I started on the drums. Yeah, I started on the drums, and then I made a transition into the piano. That's another interesting story, but yes, absolutely.
So it kind of follows you. It follows me. Like with artwork, it was always kind of natural, and I did it, and I found my own way of doing things, and now I have my own style. Same with music. You picked up music. You had to learn some of the scales and the notes, but you kind of made it your own. And I do my own versions of songs and things like that. And the same with dentures. It's like you find out how to do it, but then you take it to the next level by making it your own and making it custom and putting the artistic side into it. So it kind of all flows from the same part of your brain, I guess. You got to know the background, you got to know what you're doing, and then you take it from there, and you can branch off and do your own thing in your own style. Does that make sense?
Fundamentals, foundation, absolutely. Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
So, again, you did mention that you had another job, and you were certainly making sure that your art didn't fall by the wayside while you were learning your dental. And as I was speaking with you earlier, you did mention that you have a lab and you also have your studio. So, how in the world have you been able to juggle being a successful dental technician as well as an artist and continue to produce art and take time to invest in that art form as well? How have you been able to do this? And by the way, congratulations! You recently celebrated an anniversary. Am I right?
Yes, we did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I have um, a small child too. So, I have a 5-year-old, a wife. I play gigs on weekends. I have my full-time art studio, and then, I have the dental lab as well. And I go into offices, to see patients, which is a great thing. And it's a whole nother story in itself, but you kind of have to find time for each one. Like you said, people always ask me, like, what do you like doing the best? I like them all.
I like them all.
So, it's too hard to pick. If I don't play music for a while, I kind of freak out because I haven't played any gigs. And then, if I haven't, I do a lot of mostly commission work on artwork. So if I'm not getting commissions, I kind of freak out. And if I don't have a bunch of dentures coming in, but then it seems like they all hit at one time, and then you freak out anyway. So you gotta make the time. So, a lot of times my day is like my main lab is in my house. And
wow.
I always thought about moving it to the art studio, but I like the separation because I think if I went to the art studio, I'd be confused if I'm going to do art or dentures or play music. I need a separation. So
right.
When I know I'm in the lab, I know I'm doing lab work. When I leave here and go to the art studio, when I walk in there, I'm doing artwork, unless I'm, artwork goes back and forth with guitar. I have a guitar in my dental lab here too. So, you got to break away and find an outlet with all of it, but you always have to come back to that, the same concentration. Okay, I'm in the lab. That's what I'm doing today. So
right.
I try to break up time. And it's hard sometimes because it'll be a dental day. Like I know I'm going to be working in a lab and I'm just not with it. I'm just not there. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to the studio. And then right. You go to the studio and you work. Or if I'm at the studio, I'm like, I'm totally not into this. And, so I'll stop it and come back to the lab. So, a lot of times having a home lab, I'm sure there's a lot of people that work in bigger labs and, they punch in and out. I'm not that kind of guy, and I never will be because I'm not wired that way.
Right.
I like the freedom, but you have to be motivated and disciplined at the same time.
For sure.
You can get distracted real easy,
Absolutely.
So it's a pretty tough thing to be, solo on your own. But if you make it work, it's a pretty cool thing. Like, there's sometimes I get up 3 or 4 in the morning and I walk downstairs and I work in my lab for 3 hours, and it's 6:30 in the morning and I've already had 3 hours of work in, it's a pretty nice thing to do. And then kind of do your thing during the day, and I'll go to the studio in the afternoon, and then come back. And then sometimes I have a gig that night. So I hit on all 3 cylinders in a matter of, 24 hours. So it kind of keeps my brain going, and you never get bored with one thing.
And that's what I was going to ask you as well. And you actually, framed that question for me a few phrases ago. So again, musicians tend to be very special. Let's call it that way. An artist's very special in the structure of thoughts, right? Because there's not, I mean, there is a structure, but it's not linear. Let's just say that. Yeah. And so we find that a lot of musicians suffer of ADHD, right? Because they are, their mind is very creative and going to a lot of different areas. You know, the artist that you are, whether you're a music artist, a dental technician, a muralist, whatever it is, that's how the mind works. So how do you keep yourself focused? I know the first element of the answer, you already did answer it by compartmentalization, right? You said that you keep the lab in one setting and you keep the studio in another setting. But again, how do you keep yourself? And again, this goes back to, you know, the balance of life and all these things. How do you keep yourself focused on one thing, let's say on a particular project when it comes to a denture or a patient, when you also have a gig and you also have a particular mural or sculpture that you have to turn in? How do you do it? How does your mind work?
Sometimes I don't know, but it's kind of crazy.
Well, that's what the Dental Today podcast is for. You gotta dig deep.
So, you know, as far as like the dentures are concerned, like when I know of a lot on my plate, you know, there's times where I just kind of veg out and I'm like, okay, I gotta focus. I gotta be involved in this, or, you know, it's not going to get done. So one thing with the lab, I have doing every aspect of every piece that comes through my lab. I never get bored of one thing. I get, you know, and wax rims that I'm setting up, or I'm putting teeth on, or I'm processing a denture or polishing the other one, pouring models. I'm never just doing one thing. I'm doing 10 things at one time. And I'm sure a lot of other technicians do that same thing. You know, you can't sit there and watch, you know, your plaster dry. I mean, you got to do something else. So, you know, I jump back and forth between a bunch of different processes that I'm working on. And at the same time in the art studio, you know, with my attention deficit, I know I have it. So I have to I work on probably 3 paintings at one time.
Wow. You know, that is so awesome.
I get bored with one. Yeah. And you got to jump to another one because I start going through the motions, or I'll have, you know, a statue repair plus 2 paintings to do. And so I just kind of jump back and forth to keep my mind focused on one thing and concentrated. And then, you know, if there's a gig, the gig's kind of totally different because you go off and you play a gig and you're locked in for a couple hours. So once I get into that mode, then I'm good to go. And the same thing with dentures or the artwork. Once I get into the studio, there's sometimes I don't feel like working on artwork, but it's the only day that I have that week or something. So I got to get in there, frame of mind, sit around for a while, and all of a sudden you start picking up ideas, and then, you know, all of a sudden you're working on 3 different paintings in a matter of 10 minutes. You know, you're deep into it. And I just kind of transfer that over into the lab. If I start getting bored with something I'm doing, I just jump on another, you know, part of it that I'm, you know, and I have to be focused on and change my mind around, and then it keeps me going.
Keeps you going.
So,
That's absolutely. Yeah. It sounds to me like definitely your mind is certainly going in different directions a lot, very often. Again, that's the thing with artists. That's why I believe, and this is just something outside of dental, just, you know, I believe that school is not meant for creative minds. Or the education system is not created for educated minds, or for artistic minds, because they limit the potential of an artist. They limit the potential of a creative mind, right? And I used to see friends of mine that used to get screamed at when I was in elementary school because, you know, we were supposed to be, you know, doing the mathematics and they were over here doodling, you know, and is that wrong? I don't think that's wrong. Of course, we all have to learn numbers, right? We all have to learn numbers, absolutely. Yeah. But, you know, Albert Einstein once said you can't judge a fish by his ability of climbing a tree. And I think that that is certainly the case, especially with
It
individuals
is.
that have such an amazing mind, where creativity is constantly, flowing. Then we have the other mind, the people that are a pinpoint focus, right? That
Yes.
it's just that tunnel vision. There's room for nothing else but one project. But and I think
And I think that's bad in a way. Hmm.
well, yes, absolutely, because for you're on that side, and you definitely see the deficits on this side, and then the people that are tunnel vision, they see it the other way, because there's the other argument of people saying multitasking is a bad thing, because then you don't allow your mind to focus and develop ideas, but then that's how their mind works, and then when you ask an artist is going to tell you, this is
That
exactly where I produce my best work. Am I right?
exactly. Yep, exactly. And you got to know how to work with it. That's what I always tell people. You got to know how to use your disability to make it work for you as an individual. I mean,
Right. And then I don't think it's a disability. I just think that's just the way each one of us have a
yeah,
particular wiring to us, and that's the way it works.
yeah, that's and there's some, going back to even like music, there's some musicians that I know that I've jammed with that they have to have a chord chart in front of them, or a
Right.
chord
Right.
progression. Like they have
Right.
to have that. If they can't just wing it. And the same with some dental, I had to help some labs out before where, I cannot just sit there and do denture setups all day. I'd go crazy with seeing like 20 lab cases and I'm just setting teeth all day long. Like that would drive me nuts. I know I can't do that. So you just got to know what your limits are and what you can do and what you can do to benefit you the best in what you're doing,
Absolutely.
I guess.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. That's
Yeah.
fantastic, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us, because there are a lot of dental technicians that are phenomenal artists, because we see the work that they are producing. Yet I've
Hmm.
encountered, I would say, a few, not many, but a few that are just, they feel like they are stuck. And when I've asked them,
Hmm.
it's because they feel like they are doing the same thing over and over and over again. And although it's at a high level of, let's call it, functionality and aesthetics and, the whole nine yards,
Yeah.
they still feel stuck because they don't have, let's say, another outlet to their creativity. To these types of
Hmm.
technicians, or to these types of individuals, Tom Panei, what would you say to them?
Um, it's a scary step to step out on your own, but I think once you do that, it opens you up to so many more. I don't know, so many more opportunities. Like I said, it's just hard for me to picture myself going into the lab, working 8 hours, getting a lunch break, punching out, and going home. Like I just can't see that happening. And some people need that structure though to get anything done. So you got to find out what you want to do and where you want your lab to go. If you want to be a smaller one-man lab, or you want to be working for the man kind of thing, going
Right.
in and working for somebody else. But if you're not motivated and you don't want to put the time in, then it's not for you, because you're gonna fail, because you have to be out there. You have to be out on your own. You have to be disciplined. You have to put in your hours on your own without punching in or out or someone telling you what to do. There's a lot of deadlines, and everybody knows that with dentures. There's deadlines. People want it. They want it the next day if they can.
Yesterday.
Same day. Yeah, yesterday. So people. Some of the doctors I'm working with now, they're great, and but some of the patients will ask you, "How long is this going to take?" Well, there's two sides. It's specialized because I'm working one-on-one with the patient. Sometimes that makes it faster. But other times, hey, I'm the only guy. So, it might take a little bit longer because you're getting, specialty treatment and I don't have 10 people working for me. So it can go either way. I can, burn a midnight oil and stay up and finish something overnight, or, it's going to take a little bit longer because I'm working on 10 other things at the same time. So, but they're going to get the best the best that I can do when I can do it. I never want to compromise my work because I got to hurry up and do something,
Right.
do it badly, because then you just remake it, or, you do something wrong. So you just got to be able to take your time and do things right. And sometimes you can get it done faster, and sometimes you get it done slower when you're working for yourself.
And so, so all that sounds good, right? With what you're saying. However, somebody on the other side, they would say, "Yeah, Tom, but what would be my first step in going this direction?" What would you answer?
First step would be, I guess it goes back personally. First step would be like, if you feel you're talented enough, or if you feel you're motivated enough to do that, or if you have, connections where you're going to be able to provide for that. In this world, it's all seen and be seen. Like, you can't just expect people to find you and come to you. Like, you got to go out there and and you got to go out there and find opportunities. So you got to find, dental practices that'll work with you, or you got to prove your point to them, or you got to prove your work to them. So it all comes back to like how to be motivated to do that. If you can step out in that instead of just going in somewhere,
Right.
I've never had the opportunity to do that. So to just go in somewhere and work, I've always had the opportunity to go out and put myself out there, and that's the way I've always kind of been, how I've grown. Now I've cut back because I decided I didn't like working for too many people. So I focus on concentrating on a couple clients, a couple dentists, and just do their work.
Gotcha.
And it's a lot easier for a smaller lab to stay, okay that way. But I'm sure, more volume is better, but sometimes when you're by yourself, more volume could be, detrimental to, your practice, because you're trying to do the best you can. But if you're completely overwhelmed and you have way too many things, I mean, you either have to expand, or you kind of got to cut back and do what's worth it. There's some things I don't even do anymore because it's not worth my time. I don't. So you kind of got to focus I focus my lab on what I like to do and what I want to do and what I make the most money at. It's kind of straightforward, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And so,
I don't know if that answered your question or not. But.
Well, it's really, again, I appreciate the way you're answering this, because what I take from it is, first, it's knowing where you're standing, evaluating yourself and your situation, and evaluating what your personality is, and I definitely, I agree with that. At the very least, in theory, right? And I think that's definitely phenomenal. I think that's fantastic advice. And but how about here, Tom? Somebody that would like to reach out to you to ask you a few questions, and maybe just take a few moments to send you a few emails or a few DMs or whatever it is, just to pick your brain a little bit and take something from the years of experience, the 2 decades that you've been in this industry. How can our followers at the Dental Today podcast follow you, find you, ask you questions? Do you go to shows? Are you going to be in Lab Day in Chicago?
Yes, I will. Yeah, I'm kind of excited for that one. I'll be in Chicago. I'm always on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. I do have a website that's currently being kind of changed. It's music, art, and dentures. It's kind of crazy to keep all 3 things. But, you can click on each one and kind of go from, you can see some of my work as far as like the murals and things that I've done, and some of the artwork and restorations. And then you can click on the music part, which has, some of the CDs I've done and the gigs. And then you can click on the denture part, which has stuff that I'm working on. Or things that I have done. I don't do a lot of time cataloging a lot of things and I'm posting a lot. I wish I had more time to do that. It's tough to sometimes I'll go through a whole denture case, a real complicated case, and it's out the door, it's delivered. And I'm like, oh man, I didn't catalog that, or I didn't take any photos of that, or, you know, and then you're like, it's too late, you know. And I wish, looking back on things, I wish I would have, you know, kept a lot more pictures and notes and things like that from some of the previous cases that I've done. But sometimes you get caught in a moment and you're just flying through them, and, you know, you're not stopping, taking pictures and doing things. So, but yeah, so Instagram, Facebook, and my website, and I'll be floating around Chicago like everybody else, just kind of going to different things. You know, I'm using it as a learning tool for me. Seeing some new equipment out there. I'm not real sure. I'm a totally conventional kind of lab, not, you know, and everybody's going digital now. So I'm kind of looking into different things with that, and I'm kind of excited, you know, and that seems like to be the next way that everybody's going. Yes. But everybody I talk to and some of the dentists that I work for are still, it's still the conventional. They don't, you know, yeah, there's a market for digital, but there's still going to be a market for conventional dentures and the way things have been done. And a lot of people don't like doing that because it's dirty, it's time consuming, but I enjoy it. So, you know, I'll do it as long as I enjoy it. And if I have to go digital, it's something I'm going to look into, but I'm always going to keep the basics down because that's what got me where I'm at. And that's what I like doing. And I think a lot of it is all the hands-on kind of grunt work that makes you a better technician. I think that speaks volumes. You know, if you can do that, I never want to get into digital where I never do as much conventional dentures anymore, because I don't think I enjoyed as much, but I can't say that because I don't do as many digital dentures, you know. So it's something it's changing in the industry. And I think a lot of the smaller labs are, you know, it's kind of scary going into digital because you're kind of clueless. You know? Well,
you know, it's interesting what you're saying, that you know, you feel sometimes there's a little bit of fear there. And I've brought a couple of people on the podcast that definitely have phenomenal resources for those that are making the transition, whether it's for doctors or for dental technician professionals. So you were saying that one of the challenges that you faced when you were starting in all this, or your journey, was the lack of materials, right, and resources to a certain extent. But the internet has definitely made it such a phenomenal avenue and pathway into so much information that you know, it's out there, Tom. It's phenomenal. There are gentlemen like you know, Mr. Kevin Reck, who we had on the show as well. He's all digital, and you know, so many great people, and definitely when we're out there in Chicago, we'll definitely meet up with a lot of these great technicians that are into the digital, and absolutely
into the digital. Oh, I know. That's why I'm looking forward to going, and just because of the wide variety of, you know, events that are happening in education seminars, and just like you said, meeting different people and making the different connections. I mean, you got to do that in this business, because like I said, you can't just, you know, crawl in a hole and think everything's going to fall into place. It's not, you know, so you got to keep going. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that easy.
That's right. Yeah. We're looking forward to seeing you there, Tom. I'm going to be flying in.
Me too.
I'm going to be flying in on Thursday morning. I'm going to be in a couple of other events and meetings there, but then on Friday I'm definitely going to be there in the morning and the early afternoon, and Saturday I'm going to be there almost all day. So definitely we have to meet up, stay in touch, so that we can see each other there. I'm going to be shooting with a couple of people there as well, so that's going to be very, very exciting. This episode is going to air after the fact, after Chicago. But certainly it will be great seeing you there. And ladies and gentlemen, we want you to follow Mr. Tom Panei. He has a lot of information to share. Great artist, great technician. Tom, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and just just looking forward to staying in contact and meeting new people. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Pleasure having you, ladies and gentlemen. Follow his Facebook, send him messages, send a lot of love his way, and we will be seeing you on the next episode. Till then, folks.